This is you looking for some good games on Roblox, but nowadays, finding a decent game seems a little impossible. So I did some digging, and I found 8 of what I'd call the most underrated Roblox games on the platform. All of the games listed will average less than 1,000 players, and we'll be going in order from least to most popular. Alright, let's start with number 1, Attack on Titan lore games. Permadeath is a game mechanic in both tabletop games and video games in which characters who lose all of their health are considered dead and cannot be played. If you've played Rogue Lineage or Deep Woken, you already know how brutal this can be. But in this genre, it's very different. See, a lot of AOT lore games don't just throw you into some hardcore survival grind, they pull you into a living, breathing world where your choices actually matter. You won't just be running around slashing titans, I mean later you will, but you'll be a part of an actual community. And once you join, it's very hard to leave. But here's the thing, it's not just the game mechanics that keep you hooked, it's the feeling. The rush of a life or death fight. The tension of knowing one mistake could send you back to square one. And the permadeath system, it makes everything feel real. You don't just lose a life like in some casual game, you lose progress, experiences, and even friendships you built along the way. It raises the stakes in a way that makes every moment count. So how do you get in? Well, most of these games require you to join their Discord and group, because trust me, you're gonna want to. Some games from this genre I would recommend to you are Attack on Titan Project and Freedom War. If you have any more questions, let me know down below. Alright, for the next game, we gotta go to the Wild West. If you're not familiar with Woodlegs games, then let me educate you. Captain Woodlegs is one of many developers who pioneered classic Roblox games. Not like literal classic Roblox games, I mean he's making modern day classic games, if that makes sense. This is Cowboy game. Probably one of the most cinematic Western games on Roblox. And because of that fact, it's no surprise that it gained so much traction in such a short period of time. And you may be asking, what makes this game so immersive? Well, for one, the shooting is extremely skill-based. You can see there's no crosshair, so target practice is basically required. If you're trying to practice your aim, which you should, then hunting for animals is a great choice. And once you get a kill and butcher the meat, you can sell the meat for cash. But you may still be wondering, if the game is so good, why is the player count relatively low? Well, first of all, not all small communities are unpopular, but it's most likely due to the fact that it costs 25 Robux to play the game. Even though it's a small price to pay for greatness, a lot of players don't just have Robux sitting in their account. So they'll see the game and then forget about it. But hey, you can't question the developer, am I right? For the next game, you're gonna want a bulletproof vest. This is Clark County, a very up-and-coming county game in Roblox. If you don't know what county games are, it's basically FiveM roleplay, but in this game, there's no actual rules or standards of roleplay, which I'd say makes it perfect for new players. Clark County is more on the difficult side, due to the fact the possibilities are quite literally endless. When you first join, you'll start out as a visitor, but without residency, you'll be missing out on a lot the game has to offer. To get residency, you'll need to join their group. Then a bot will predetermine if you're eligible. If you're unfortunately not eligible, like me, then you'll need to fill out a residency form, which you can find in the Discord. Once you're all set up, you'll have multiple options. You can become a cop, a firefighter, a fisherman, a trucker, or just a menace to society. Oh, and I forgot to mention, most serious jobs like a cop or a firefighter will require an application to join. This is because police and firefighters have a lot of power, and if they're ever abused, the game would be pure chaos. Now, Clark County is probably one of, if not the most immersive county game on Roblox. If I was to cover everything you could possibly do in this game, the video would be like, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. But hey, if you want me to make a longer video on this game, let me know in the comments.
Hush, here comes a whiz-bang. Hush.
Whizzbang is another one of Woodleg's many masterpieces. I'd argue it's one of the most cinematic war games on the platform. This is because it really taps into the realism of war. Let me explain what I mean by that. One of the things you probably wouldn't think about in a game like this is the waiting you do before the enemy shows up. There's a good 5-minute grace period between gunfights, and it really fills you with anticipation. Kind of the same way a psychological horror movie would. It's like you're waiting for a jump scare, but it never happens. Another thing that's just terrifying is the hallucinations. Yes, you'll get hallucinations, and I don't mean cheap scary ones. I mean you as the player won't be able to tell what's real and what's not. But hey, that's just war, you'll walk it off. If you've played Whizzbang before, then you'll know that it's not just cinematic, but it's also kinda realistic in psychological terms. When you get in a match, you'll notice there's no crosshair on the gun. This is something Woodlegs will do in a lot of his games. And I think it's a way to better immerse you in the gameplay. When you kill people, you'll be unsure if it was you or the guy behind you. But personally, even for realistic war games, I live for the kill notifications. This is proof that Woodleg's games are leaning towards a more cinematic feel. If you want to actually see everything I've explained here, which I recommend you do, I made a video with no commentary showcasing Whizzbang's true nature. Hey, have you ever wanted to play a game that kind of replicates GTA? Well, you're in for a treat. This is Ultimate Town Sandbox, a very underrated game with some very cool mechanics. I believe it's heavily inspired by GTA 5 with its own clever twist. You can rob people on the streets, get in gunfights with gang members or the police, whatever floats your boat. I will say the driving mechanics are pretty wonky, so it's not entirely your fault for running over 10 people. Exploring the city, you'll find several different NPCs, and if you talk to some, they'll have a story explaining the character. And the overall vibe of Ultimate Town Sandbox kind of feels nostalgic. The relaxing music in the background, the deep stories behind each player's conversations. When I'm playing this game, I get a sense of curiosity, like I need to know more about the story. This is a game you'll most likely get lost in playing, and believe it or not, UTS is free to play. Personally, I'd say this game is worth like 100 Robux at least. Oh, also, if you pick a hardcore world, your character won't respawn if they die. And I made the bright idea of picking hardcore and then getting absolutely wiped out. I'm not going to spoil the possibilities of UTS, but I will say Ultimate Town Sandbox is an extremely well-made game, and you'll be missing out if you don't play it at least once. This is Siberian Coal Mining Simulation. That's the real name of the game. For time purposes, let's shorten it down to SCM, Siberian Coal Mining. SCM is a sort of sandbox style game. This is because the mineshaft is completely destructible, which is what really drew me to the game in the first place. The whole idea of SCM is to go down into the mines and find coal, but unfortunately for the coal miners, that's not the only thing they have to worry about, because as a coal miner, you'll be subject to extreme dangers. Fall damage, explosions, starvation. These are things no man should ever experience, or woman. You'd think the problems would end here, but we're just getting started. If you were to dig deep enough, you would make an ungodly discovery: meat blocks. I couldn't find much lore about the meat blocks, but apparently if you eat them, you might turn into a zombie. In my experience, that hasn't happened yet. If you can put aside the horrifying mysteries SCM holds, it's a very fun game to play with friends. On stream the other day, I was having an absolute blast doing research for this game.
You and I, kid. You know what, kid? You're all right, you know.
Thanks.
You're pretty good.
You're all right too. You know, I thought in the last run, but you're all right, man. It was nice knowing you. This is a real thing that can happen in No Big Deal, a game built around making deals that are no big deal. The game is currently in early alpha and is expected to have a bunch of changes. I'll be explaining the game in the present of 2025, as in the future, a lot of this may change. Once you pick between the 3 teams, Bergman, Halfwell, or Allemont, you'll be assigned to do 3 things, depending on your role. If you see a floppy disk on the floor, that's called the project, and you're going to be selling the project to the highest bidding team. But that's only what you're supposed to do, if you know what I mean. If you have a bunch of cash, then you're tasked with buying the project from the team with the most money. And if buying isn't an option, I'm sure you'll figure something out. The board at the front will tell you the objective, but I just wanted to give you some ideas. There is also something called dead drop. Basically, the project is left at a random location, and each team already knows where it is. It's just a matter of getting the project. How hard could it be? Alright, I'm gonna jump right into the next game because I'll say without a doubt, it's one of the coolest FPS shooters I've ever played on Roblox. From the creators of Dummies vs Noobs, we have a game called HELLMET, a body cam styled shooter with an extremely creative design. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. For starters, just look at the game's join mechanics. It may look confusing, but this is probably the coolest way you'll ready up in a game. Also, the body cam style is extremely well made for a Roblox game, not to mention the shooting mechanic, which doesn't even look like Roblox. What I've gathered from playing HELLMET is that it's a search and seize kind of game, a lot like Ready or Not. You'll enter a compound and neutralize or detain threats, and the main goal of each mission can differ drastically. Everything about HELLMET just screams quality. You can tell the developers spent some real time and effort on the game, and unlike those quick dopamine FPSs, it has a real backstory that supports the gameplay. And I'm utterly surprised that this game will only get around 400 to 500 players on its best days, but hopefully after this video that will change. Alright fellas, what everyone's been waiting for, honorable mentions. I'm gonna quickly cover a few games that almost made the cut. Number 1, Town. It's a dark RP game with a very big building scene. Most people will roleplay or just get in gunfights. Dream Game, a sandbox adventure type game with a bunch of hidden Easter eggs. I Want to Test the Game, You Suck. Flood Escape, a very old but fun game. Far From Land, a very high quality FNAF styled horror game. And I'm not just saying that. I might make a video explaining this game in higher detail. Alright, thanks for watching, and if the video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a video about whatever the top comment says. Honestly, I'm not messing around, just please try and keep it YouTube friendly.